Welcome to the Miles on Repeat podcast. Today we have a man I chased through the deserts of Moab a couple of years ago, and now we have him here to talk more about his adventures since I've met him. Today we have Bryan Paisley. How you doing, Bryan?
Hey, good to see everybody. Yay.
Good to see you. How are you doing?
I feel good. I'm pretty solid. My 1966 model Brian is still working pretty well.
Still running pretty smoothly.
Yeah, I can't believe it. Just a little PT and a lot of easy running. For some reason, we keep making it.
So I really just wanted to know kind of where your running started. I mean, it looked like you kind of
Yeah.
started ultra running not too terribly long ago.
No, the racing was very new. I wouldn't call it what we call it today. There was like the Dipsy and Marin, but we didn't know any of that existed as kids. So we were not runners, we were dirt skiers. So we would climb a lot and ski. And so between the bikes and the running, I would say, because we would set out for runs, we'd call it a run. I'd call it dirt skiing because when you get to the top, we bushwhack so much as kids. So that turned into a love of running outdoors, which led me into cross country. And then I kept running trail up until I got married and had kids. So about till 35 or so. And so it was an early entry, not into ultra running, but into being in the woods, feeling free, having some friends to share a day with out there, having a messy, gross lunch that you packed, some old tuna fish sandwich, just that I was in it, And so when I found the community, which I'll call whatever ultra running and racing, I was like, where have you guys been? They're like, where have you been, dude? You've been out in the woods or something too much. But it's kind of like, oh, okay, my people. So that happened, pretty late after recovery. So,
Like, how did you kind of become aware of ultra running in general?
oh yeah, good point. Good question. It was actually I got into drug recovery, alcohol and drug recovery. I've been clean since 2006, no alcohol, and none of those hard drugs, none of that messy stuff. And so that's been a good run. So 2006, my sponsor was an ultra runner or is an ultra runner. So my sponsor in the program got me out. He said, "You like trail running?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do." And then from there, he introduced me to the racing world and such. And then from then, he's had to work full time. My work schedule's gotten so much easier that he's looking at me. He's like, now you're running all these 100 milers and 200s, and here I'm stuck at work. But so he turned me on to it. He's we can blame him.
Blame him for getting you just going down a path. And it looks like you've just been kind of going down it, doing a 200 miler pretty much every year since 2019, it looked like.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I took a year off of 200s year before last, and I tend to do 1 200 a year, and that's really it for formal racing. I'll do like last year I did a FKT. It's actually really not an official FKT. It's too confusing, but I designed it during COVID, and a bunch of people have run it. And so I did that. Like that's a 100 miler. Just go out alone with a pack, big pack, and try to supply for the day and enjoy myself. So I'll do like a real special race, and maybe I'll do another small race somewhere or something like that. But I really like to train a lot. I do love my training, and I love the build up. Um, so I'm kind of a slacker when it comes to racing. I know Ultraspire would love for me to race more and brag about it, but I just, it's funny. It's just I race to celebrate and I race to see friends. And yeah, I'd love to do more of that, but also it's very social and you have a family and kids and a whole life to balance that. I wish I could live on the road going to ultra events.
That would be the ultimate dream, though, just to get to go to every single thing and see everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. And even some of the hardcore like volunteers, Brian Wilford, who runs the volunteer groups at Destination Trail, he's so amazing going in the summer. He gets to be busy with those events. And he tells me, he says, the beauty of these events and volunteering and running the volunteers, he says, it renews my faith in humanity each time. Just the humanness to help others, the humanness to share pain, the humanness to comfort, the humanness to share joy. It's those things we don't get to experience every day. Oftentimes we see our fellow man as antagonistic or in our way. It's a good time to renew actual human bonds, who we are deep down inside. Yeah.
I wholeheartedly agree. I got to volunteer at Bigfoot this year, and that was an amazing, amazing experience to be on the other side of it. And
Yes.
I got to see Bruce a couple
Oh, good,
times.
good, good,
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
Good
that
old
was
Bruce.
that was amazing. But have you volunteered for them at all yet?
Yes, I've done just actually, it was just a long weekend. It was like 2 or 3 days. I ran the Spooner up in Spooner Summit in Lake Tahoe, the Tahoe 200.
Oh yeah, I'm
It was
familiar with
great.
Spooner.
It was, yeah, I mean, it was great. It was a little harder than I thought. It was pretty much like 2.5 days full on with some naps. But it was very similar to running one. It was like the endurance of it, trying to keep up happiness while things might be pretty crazy and tough. Yeah, very similar.
They do kind of line up pretty well, I think.
Yeah.
Um, so you went back to Moab this last year, and is that
Yeah.
the only 200 you've repeated so far?
Yes. I'm not a big race repeater because there's so many and so many to choose from. I did the four well-known West Coast ones, which were the three of Candace Bird's Destination Trail, which is Tahoe, Moab, Bigfoot, and I did Cocodona. And then this last year, I went back and did Moab, which was a lot harder without you, Amanda.
I can't imagine that I made it any easier.
Oh, it was fun. Well, this one I pushed a little too hard, I would say. I mean, my time was awesome, but that's not what I was really going for. So, I was a little disappointed in myself towards the end of that race. I should have slept more. And I knew I would have a distraction because my wife Jenny isn't a big. She's not part of our scene here. I would love her to be a part and we'll always invite her. And this time she said yes. And I knew that would be a distraction in the sense of, oh, I got to get off this course. So I don't want to, cause her any more worry or pain or anything like that. So that may have been a little bit of it too. I just think it was just lack of sleep. And I really would have enjoyed the last day a lot more. I could say pretty well that I did not enjoy the last day.
It goes that way when you're going 200 miles, well, 240, I guess, in this
Yeah.
case. But what was it about Moab that brought you back to that one?
Yeah, I love it because I mean, there's not a ton of Bert, but there is. I mean, she's added a nice little part to it, which is beastly and beautiful. Um, I can't think of all the names right now, but that added section is gorgeous. Harder, but what is it's the diversity, and also I'm not from the desert, so I love the cliffs and I love the desert animals. At night, there's all sorts of chinchillas and little mice or rats that stand up on their legs, and I don't know. There's a magic to those rocks. There's something ancient, almost, beyond even human. Uh, just they inhabit something. It's a feeling I get there. I'll always go there because of that. Now that race, I don't know about that, but it is a magic spot for me. I'll always go back. I just love it. So I think it's the rocks, it's the water, and then it's the forests. Once you hit the climbs, they're really nice and brutal, which is just what I like when I'm pissed off. So I, I'm getting to this section here about pissed off. So kind of, I guess, yeah, my last night I'm climbing up, and I just started getting mad. My coach and was pacing me, Avery Collins, and so we're going up there, and he's like, "Bryan, you're doing really well." I'm like, "I'm pissed off." He said, "Oh," and then I just went into it, and it was about a relationship. I won't go into it from there. Everybody's still alive, and I just had been holding back. Um, Sure, I was not myself. I was low on sleep, low on food, but I got angry, and I don't get angry that much. And I had to take a big look at myself and in that relationship, thinking I'd forgiven so much, but still having this resentment deep down. So doesn't matter how tired and out of it you are, these things can be very impactful and meaningful in your life. For me, it's been 3 months of, or 4 or 5 months of kind of awkward discovery about, being able to hold the positive and the negative in your hands at the same time. That kind of cognitive or heart dissonance almost. It's almost too hard for your heart, but we do it. We eventually learn, or I'm learning. It's new to me to hold both. So I would say that just, made me, I was just angry and got me up the hill. But yeah, in terms of the race itself, I may never race that again, but I do love it. So,
What was the best part of the race this time around for you?
oh, best part. Um, is it called Eldon? The mountain you and I climbed up? Eldon.
Uh, is it Eldon? I'm not sure what
Yeah.
it's.
Well,
I
for
don't
those
no,
listening,
Shea Mountain. Shea Mountain is what
hey,
we.
thank you.
Yeah,
Gosh, you
yeah,
remember.
yeah.
I
It
think
took
when
me a
you go
second.
there and you're totally out of it, then you forget everything forever. Shea Mountain. Yeah, it was just really nice. What was nice about it was a big climb, so Avery had to do that one with me too. He had 2 sections, and we got up there. We got some sleep, and then I woke up and my wife was there, and we all just sat around by the fire, and it was a moment of relaxed feeling of accomplishment, of that. Sure, I have 120 left, but I just did 120. um I just felt renewed for a while, refreshed. I would say that course, when it's hot like it was this year, it's the opposite of refreshing. I mean, I just want to just swim or be ensconced in cool water because it's just brutal. And I think the hardest part about Moab that I forgot were just the rocks, that you're kicking a lot of rocks, that you feel like, oh, okay, I can run this section. And it turns out to be like under a tenth of a mile and you're back walking, or for me walking, because at that point, making the decision on where to put my foot, I better be striding relatively slowly. So yeah, the rocks really did kind of get me. It's always those sections where you feel like you're gonna make your time back or something like that. Oh, it's really flat there. I'm gonna go real fast. Like at Orcas, I was like, this is where I'm gonna gain my time. And on Orcas, it was flooded, so you were kind of swimming. And then here, I was like, oh, I forgot Moab. rocks. So it's slower than you'd think. It's faster than the other 200s. It's definitely slower. Yeah, so
What do you think you'll like go back to either Bigfoot or Tahoe at all, or are you kind of done
Bigfoot.
with those ones?
Um,
But
I'd do Tahoe if they do the circuit again. Um, but definitely Bigfoot. I'll go back. And that's a good course to do solo because, well, you can do any of these races solo because there's so much at the aid stations and so many ways to strategize your drop bags. But it's kind of it's a little harder to crew, and so I just didn't want to put that on anybody. So I went out and I did it alone, and I loved it actually. So I do suggest doing, if you love doing 200s, try one alone if you're interested, because there's a lot of support out there. You don't feel like you got to get somewhere by a certain time. There's no like pressure on your pace. You just pace so it's all your race. So in that sense, you're not thinking about anybody or anything else in terms of your time, your pace. It's just you. And that worked really well for me. I think also crewing 200s is pretty hard on people. It's a lot of time. When they opened the Arizona Monster 300 plus, I was like, why would you crew for a full week? That's a long time. Unless you're with an elite and then it go quickly. But yeah, I always go so far from the question. Was that answering your question?
that was answering my question. You can take
Good.
it
I
wherever.
mean, what happens is my brain just goes off on things, and then oh, did she ask?
How was it being solo at Bigfoot? Because that is a tough course. Did you deal with
Mm.
any issues out there?
There were a couple. I mean, back then I didn't have my nutrition 100% in. I did okay on nutrition. Everything was okay. I mean, kind of a low grade stomach ache the whole time. But being alone, I don't know. I really felt like I knew people out there. And I knew that my friend was manning one of the last aid stations. So I wanted to see her, Molly Martin. Hi, Molly. Um, and but other than that, there was no sense of loneliness. Oh, I wish I had crew. I don't know why, but it felt, this almost easier just do it. You know, Sometimes the soft embrace of friends can also make you feel more tired than you should. Uh, a second, I just got an Amanda hug. I'll just take a nap. Whatever. But so I really it's a very hard course. It is. So solo or not solo, a lot of the downhill is very slow. Can't see your feet, stuff like that. So people need a lot of time on the back half. So it's good to kind of stay on it the first half so you can get across with plenty of time. But really, yeah, it's a hard course. I don't mind it alone. And I would encourage people who are curious to try. That's all.
How is the planning different for Bigfoot versus the others with crew?
Oh, big. That's a big difference. Great questions, boy. Um, just your drop bags have to be dialed. You can't forget anything. I tend to do that with crew because you never know, crew might have a problem. So I tend to overpack myself, but I'll tell you, you just have to make sure you have everything in each bag. They're not doing moving drop bags, or at least they didn't do them at Moab, which actually might help you keep things more organized. Moving can sometimes, have play with your brain. Where's my this or that? And you think you got something at the next aid station. So it's just really good to keep a list of everything in your drop bags at every aid station so you can glance at it. If I was in a fast race, it would be really important, like a 100 miler, so I could just know what's coming before I hit that aid station, so I can think through the steps before I get there. 200s, it doesn't matter so much, but you better have all your stuff. So I'd say it's a little harder in prep. You can't just willy-nilly it. You treat it like a solo adventure without aid stations kind of thing, I mean, almost. uh, so yeah, that's a good question.
Did you have like any mentally low moments where you're forgetting to grab things from your drop bags or anything like that?
At Bigfoot, I did not, but I did lose things on the trek, being tired. Lost. I think I tried to take caffeine pill, lost just the usual stuff I would have done with crew, but I probably could have reloaded if crew was at the next stop. So yeah, there were some things I dropped.
Was your sleep impacted at all? Because I know, like, when I crewed you at Moab, you had the van to sleep in, and
Mm,
like at Bigfoot, you're probably sleeping in tents and stuff.
that's another great question. Bigfoot is, yeah, I tried to do the sleep stations, which was not a good idea. I mean, for me personally, I don't mind sleeping on the ground anywhere. Usually I'm tired enough or no animal would scare me anyway at that point. So I don't care about bugs. So I find it's nice to get kind of close to an aid station, find a great quiet place, a little bit off the trail, and get a good sleep. If you go down to the aid station, try to get in one of those tents. First, they smell like God knows, but you'll be like right next to a porta potty and it's slamming all day and people are loud and even with the earplugs. And so once again, it's one of those things, controlling what you can control. And because I don't mind sleeping out in nature, that's something I can control. I can control my sleep a little more. So I had 2 bad nights and then I had a great night out in the woods. So I had 2 bad nights at the sleep stations and then I learned.
Were you just taking dirt naps for the most part then?
Yeah, very small, very short. Yeah, I did. I think I slept like 7 hours for that. That was pretty good. This last Moab was like 3.5, 4 hours. Not good. Yeah.
And do you think it was because of the crew component at Moab, like Jenny being there too, that you didn't get the amount of
Yeah.
sleep?
Yeah, it's always my personality tends to be, unfortunately, hyper vigilant. Making sure everything's okay. Typical quote trauma responses, and so that does interfere a lot. Even racing, like starting a race, and everybody tends on like 100 miler, people are starting fast, and that's just not my style. I start slow and then I pick them off as I go. So people can kind of influence me. And then I'm like, Bryan, what are you doing? Go get back in yourself, whether it's during a race or worrying about crew or whatever. It's like, number one, crew doesn't want you to worry about them at all. Right. But it's these things you don't think, I'm an emotional wreck. What can I say?
I think most of us are. That's why we turned to ultra running, right?
Yes. Yes.
Do you have another 200 on the horizon?
Just Tour de Gens, which probably be in the next 2 years. I'll be 60 next year, so that'll probably be a good time. Hopefully, get in on the first try if I'm 60, but probably not. So we'll see.
Is it an
But that's
application process for that race?
yeah. It starts. It's just it started last month and I'm pretty sure Avery Collins, my coach, is getting in, and if he gets in, I'll be flying. I'll be going and crewing him there. But that's one I'd really like to run someday. Other than that, it kind of depends. Like next year, who knows? Um, yeah. So I just haven't been thinking out that far, I guess.
Um, like Is it just because you did Lake Sonoma here recently, or do you have?
Probably, yeah, Lake Sonoma, that was fun. Well, it didn't, but it didn't complete itself. Lake Sonoma was the first time a course DNF'd me, and I didn't DNF a course. In other words, the race was canceled at 16 hours or so. So I just finished with my 100K. But boy, that was one of those races where you go up this mountain, you come back. So you do 11-mile out and back, and then you get out on the main course. And it's not that steep, but it's like 2,505 miles going up, and then you come down. There was the elite group I saw come through, or who could be elite. And then there was a bunch of people right behind them. And I was like, oh my God, guys, what are you doing? They were going so fast. So it was one of those races, start off in whatever, 10th to last place at the first aid station. And if you look at my splits, it's like I take 10 people every time. So eventually I got down to like 30th, right? From 90th. But it's just, it is one of those things. That is one of those 100-milers. People start pretty fast. And it's just one of those things. I always have to watch those first two aid stations because I'm like, that is not my style. I'm a older guy. I start slower and I tend to, even on 200s, I tend to negative split everything. Everything I do is negative. It's because I just take a while to warm up. It's just like, then I get going faster. It's that whole revenge of the grandmasters in the middle of the night. These old guys with poles are passing the young guys, But they start slower, me and those tall Swedish guys, we're all slow starters.
How is the trail out there for you guys?
That one was a mess. So Lake Sonoma, all January was beautiful here. I just live south of Lake Sonoma, about an hour and a half. So same weather. Every day in January, we don't get rain. I look at my wife, I say, this is just increasing our chances of a lot of rain. And indeed, the first rain in a month hadn't come yet, probably like 12 hours before the race started. It was what they call an atmospheric river, with just a lot of rain. So it's fine for me, Mr. Lone ultra runner, out alone on winter days for hours in the rain. I'm like, whatever. But it did get high enough where it took out a bridge and we could not continue. So but the trail condition itself, I've never done so much true dirt surfing, or what do they call it? Trail surfing, as I have there. And that is, you get your balance and you're going down for a while sliding. So it was fun, and I only fell off my surfboard once. Just big old mud up and down my body. And you get so dirty, and then you're like, well, there's that creek coming up that's about 6 feet. So, I mean, there were some big creeks, probably 3 feet and fast moving water, but yeah, so it was just crazy. And then there were a lot of relay people who didn't have a lot of ultra or trail experience. And there was like these washouts in the trail. I was like, gosh, if somebody just doesn't see that one step, that kind of stuff. So it was hairy. I think even without the bridge wipeout, there was some stuff there that was getting kind of dangerous for some of the runners, but it always is. That's how. I mean, I definitely wouldn't think the RD should change anything, but definitely for the runners, they had to be careful.
Was it just like steep ascents and descents, or?
It's Lake Sonoma is a great course. It is constant up and down. Your ups, I mean, you have a couple long climbs that might be a mile the most. You have mostly the grade is, when you're going up, I'd say 15 to 20. There's a couple, like usual, with short hills. There might be a quick 30 or something like that degree. So all very hikeable, like fast hiking. So power hiking those little hills and shuffling down as a rhythm is amazing. I ran my best 100K out there a few years ago. It was just grand, and it was just because it just lends itself to a very consistent shuffle, or consistent effort going up, nothing too hard, nothing too easy, shuffle down a little easier but not too hard on your body. That will you'll kill that course every time with that strategy. It's just it's delicious. So yeah, some of the climbs, for some people it's a little much because there's just tons of vert. It's about 300 per mile there, so it gets to you. But it is a great course. People should try the 50 miler out there. It's a big, like the elites will come do a warm up there. 100K out there is amazing. So yeah, come on out, folks.
I think when I had talked to you post what happened, you said like you were having a really great race and that you were
Yes.
disappointed. So what was so great about what was going on during the race?
Yeah, what it was, kind of what I was alluding to, it's that ability to stay at about, well, what for me is, I guess, aerobic threshold, about 120 BPM. So just above easy. If I'm holding that going up and down these hills all day, I'm just cruising. So I started slowly. I wanted to finish 50 miles with at 1630 pace, and I was just really consistent, but there were a couple extra miles, so I did pick up my pace a little bit so I could make the time of day where I was going to meet Christina for pacing. So I did do the first 50 and let's say 16-minute miles, which is tends a little fast. I would go back. I would try not to do anything under 1630, nothing faster, just to set up for the back, because I did feel after we did that out and back to finish 100K, I did feel a little more quad pain than I usually feel. And I think it had to do with the slipping and sliding too. Because my workouts are really, really hard, and usually races don't bother me. It's the workouts that bother me. If I stay within pace. So I just think it's just fit for that low aerobic all day pace.
How is the pace comparison different between like when you're training for a 200 and a 100 that you're trying to do well?
To me, it's the same, but there's I hike during my for my 200s. Do a lot of hiking, so there'll be like 5 mile easy run, a 1 mile or 2 miles hike only, then maybe 3 miles at tempo, 1 mile hike. Because the hiking, first of all, on 200s, you're gonna hike a lot unless you're just amazing. And second of all, your hiking form is very different than your running form. You will heel strike more. So you'll have a tendency to get heel blisters if you haven't done that. And just the muscle group is different. So if you learn that muscle group really well, then that walking time becomes even easier, right? Becomes even more of a break once you push your hiking efficiency. So, I mean, like ultra running, we got to throw everything on the board, but it does. I think the hiking is a huge point, and really powering those hikes, because you don't want to spend all day out there anyway. So, you hit those hikes with a real solid, and then shuffling and then running hard. So 100s, less walking, but still walking, uh, more speed work. I'd say they're just about the same, except 200s tend to be less vert intense. So I tend to do more long with lots of vert for 200s, whereas with hundreds, I might be doing more repeats and stuff, and really working it into the a little bit of, I'll race aerobic, but I'll train like a lot of threshold and stuff.
Do you ever, since you train different styles for like the 100, 200 different distance, do you ever do like a 100 miler in a build up to a 200?
I don't do that. That's done by a lot of folks. I haven't heard anything good or bad about doing that. So, but no, I haven't. I'll just leave it at that. I guess the one thing I would say while I was giving a little attitude was I do think there are no such things as training races per se. I mean, unless you're going out there to go slowly, which nobody's going to do on a training. I'm sorry, training races, there's still going to be races. You're still going to care too much. I think. I think it's always good to allow people to relax, And I think adding more stress before the big stress can, I don't know. I think you can do it either way.
Yeah, definitely. I think it works well for either way. I was just curious if, because you train so differently for each, if,
Mm-hmm.
you had ever structured that as a build up before.
Oh, it's a good question. Really good. And because a lot of people do that. So people who are interested, there are lots of people who do that. So I have a lot of athletes that beg me to do it, and I'll give them little bits, but then they'll always drop, "Oh, can I do this 50K in a few weeks?" And I say, "Well, yeah, of course you can." It's just, I don't want you to, but um, so,
Yeah,
everybody should do kind of what they want after they get the information that
definitely.
and make their own decision. Yeah.
When did you start coaching? Because I know that it feels like it
2000.
wasn't too long ago.
Yeah. 2000.
2000? You've been
Mm-hmm.
coaching since then?
Yeah. Or 4+ years. Oh, no, it's 5. It's full 5. Yeah. Since
That's
COVID.
awesome.
Yeah.
Ha-
Since Orcus, I think, is when I took
okay.
on. Hi, John Busick, when I took on John and then his wife, and then it just started to flood. And now I have spots open, but usually I don't. Usually I take 10 athletes and I just focus hard on 10. And it seems like when I get up to like 12, I don't remember stuff as well. I have to write more stuff down, which is for me not a good thing because I won't write it down.
Yeah, that I guess that is hard to kind of manage. Um, do you kind of use what your training principles are for them for your training? Are you still kind of working with
100%.
Avery?
Yeah, 100%. I'm coached by Avery, and he's different than me. But a lot of the ultra principles I learned from him. I used to do cross country and coach cross country, but that's a different thing. That's like track. So we pretty much trained track, and then I learned all my ultra running stuff from Avery. Pretty much, yeah. That in the books.
What's your biggest piece of advice for somebody who's looking to run their first 200-mile race?
200 mile. Oh boy. The the thing I want to say is the thing that requires the most of people, and that is you got to do lots of training. I would say the number one thing in the training would be definitely the hiking intervals, and learning to eat a lot while you're out there is always good. If you're coming from like a 50 miler or so, it's going to be different trying to eat. And so always good to eat a lot while you're training. I say, prepare your stomach, because the more you can eat and the more you can stay hydrated, the better you'll feel. It's just the way it is, just science. So I guess that the hiking, the eating.
What about sleeping? What kind of advice would you give for that?
Oh, well, there's always the overnights. You definitely need to train overnight. You definitely need to, if you're not used to doing hundreds and you're over 24 hours like I am for hundreds, we should always train some night sections. And I like to do an overnight. Like if I can do it, I'll drive up to Tahoe. I'll I'll run like 30 miles one day and then camp, and then 30 miles that night, or whatever. I'll do a night and then a day and then I'll camp out, so I'll break it up, but definitely want a full night. For me personally, I like it because I like being alone at night, and a lot of people need training with that. So I would definitely say you get some good hours at night. If you're uncomfortable, bring a friend. I don't want anybody to be uncomfortable, but boy, it's necessary.
Do you take anything like when you're doing overnight stuff? Like, do you have an inReach or anything for communication while you're
I
out there?
do. I have just a spot. So when I'm in the wilderness overnights, I bring my spot device, so Jenny knows where I am. Around here, we don't have much. The biggest problem here would be like falling onto something. The animals won't. I mean, there are a lot of mountain lions, but they're used. This is north of the Bay Area. They're used to us. There's people all over the place, so the cats are very adapted. Yeah, it's really nothing to worry about around here except injuring myself out there.
Have you ever dealt with anything like that on the trail, getting hurt or anything like that?
Just sickness where I've had to, where I get like a stomach ache or something. This is before really nailing my nutrition. I'll get a stomach ache and I'll make a little nest out of limbs and leaves and I'll just sleep for 3 hours. So sometimes I've had to. And, people can tell where you are on your spot device. They're like, okay, he fell asleep. He hasn't moved. He's either dead or asleep.
One of the two. Hopefully it's the first, not the
Yeah.
latter, right?
Usually I'm like, if it doesn't move for 3 hours, then call.
Right, right. So what's working for you nutrition wise now?
Okay, it has been a journey, and here I am to help some of you make that journey less gross. All right, I always thought I can't do sugar and stuff. I always thought, oh, what's happening is I run hypoglycemic, so it just goes through me and then it burns me out. And that's not going to work. So then all whole foods, spring gels, all that kind of stuff. The problem when it all comes down to it, doesn't matter what I was taking, it just wasn't enough. It wasn't enough for the load I was putting on. I eat now 50 grams of carbohydrate per 4 miles. So if I'm hiking, it's a little over an hour. If I'm running, it's 40 minutes. I can get 50 grams of carbs for $2 by product drop carbs. 50 grams of carbs in these things for $2. They taste weird. It's mostly glucose. It's kind of thin, so it just really doesn't really even have to process in your system. So what I do, I keep carbs going, some other sugary type carbs, and then I eat lots of real food too. So once I hit, even in training, mile 15, I start with protein, fat, vitamin C, or vitamins in general. So if I'm on a long race, I'll bring my little AG1 or something like that to get some micros. I still eat meat, so I don't eat a lot of meat, but I digest it well. So I will cut up pieces of steak and cheese for protein. But you definitely want to get your protein in starting at least by 15 if you're not using protein through the whole time. You don't need a lot, but it sure does help. So what happens is all that whole food I eat, I don't even count that. All I'm counting is how many sugar carbs am I getting per hour, because everything else can just be extra. Once I did that, I figure I just stopped having stomach issues. I mean, I still get sour stomach like everyone, but never that just puking and just can't get it together. The thing though that goes hand in hand with the nutrition change is proper hydration. You won't want to eat much if you're not well hydrated. You can't get things through your mouth, you can't digest as well. So the hydration is key too. But it sure was a horrible journey, just having to learn that I just needed more, and I just need a way to get more in. So a lot of pros are doing 100 grams per hour, which is, they're probably going pretty hard too. So I think 50 grams is great per hour, or a little more.
Well, it sounds like you're probably getting more in general anyway.
Yes. Yes, tons.
How long of a process was it to like figure that all out? Like when did you start implementing this new nutritional strategy?
This was this year. This year. So that's why I'm pretty excited. It was last spring. No, it's the summer that I just was like, I'm just not getting enough carbs. I got to give it a try. So then I talked to Avery. He said, "Oh yeah, I should try that carbs brand." So it's weird, but it's good. It works. And so I started using that. I was like, this is amazing. Everything I've tried, I'm just not getting enough of it in fast enough. So that's why I was crashing. And it might have to do with being slightly hypoglycemic. So there might be other people who have my issue. The other issue I have when I'm low is I'll start to sneeze. It's an indication I need to eat. Like I'll sneeze and feel something in my stomach, and that's just low blood sugar. It's just weird. So it just takes me, the tips are so helpful in these podcasts and stuff, but boy, it just takes time. And I like the whole, eat whatever you want, but God damn it, make sure it's enough.
I love that because a lot of people do not eat enough out there. And that's why you have zombies rolling into an aid station.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those I like branch chain amino acids too. I take those pills during long efforts, and it comes in like goos and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But those do tend to make me a little more alert on those long runs, and I didn't know that. Just somebody asked me once at an aid station at 4 a.m. They said, "You just look so chipper. What's up? Did you take like amino acids?" I'm like, "Yeah." It's like, "Oh, that's what it is." I was like, "What do you mean?" I take them for my muscles. He said, "Oh no, it really helps. It's a protein, so I could see how it helps clarity." So he said that, so I'm sticking with it.
Hey, it sounds scientific in some sort of way.
It does. It's science.
So what kind of gear do you recommend for, the ultra distances?
Yeah, there was one thing. Oh yeah, the one thing, because you did ask this question, just which was nice. Anybody knows I cheated. She did ask a couple questions first. This is a great question. Mine is the screw bottle top water filter. So you can drink anywhere at any time. You get a hole in your bladder. Oh no, oh no. Something happened to your water bottle, it broke or something, or you're out of water. It's like you have, rivers and streams, and or even. Okay, so definitely the filter for purifying water. Always bring a water purifying thing, especially when you're doing long solo events. You might know where all the water fountains are and this and that, but boy, if you find yourself not able to get to one and you need water, it is so important to have water. So that one, solo adventures, definitely an inReach or spot device. For races, besides the water bottle thingy, oh my gosh, this is going to be a good one. Lube, because you never know. No, just no, but I really don't. I mean, other than the fact that I have very particular packs I like, that's why I still work with Ultraspire. They just they I use their equipment, and but I am biased and I do work with them. So, but their equipment is just the best. So I do like that. Long efforts also. I love using poles on things over 50K with a lot of vert. So my poles of choice right now are Lecky. They're really easy for beginners because they have a glove system where you don't have to learn how to use the straps. Because one of the things that we have to learn is that we come from skiing and we're not really using the straps. Like, we use the straps in skiing more to so we don't lose the pole. So getting that leverage with a pull strap is important to learn, and if you don't do that, just get a lecky.
What vest do you have by Ultra Aspire? I was curious about that for myself.
It is the one sec. It is the it's my favorite type, and gosh, forget which one this is. Forget which one this is. I'll remember in a sec. I'll look it up. But yeah, so while I look that up for you at another point, but that's if I can remember, I'll remember. But I don't see it on the label.
That's okay. I was curious because your vest looks like, how many liters is that one?
Oh, you mean for the 200?
Yeah,
Because this one's just 12 or 15. My big one is 30,
your big
and I
one's 30.
30. And the reason, and a good equipment call out here, the reason for 30 is, first of all, I can collapse it. I hate stuffing stuff in a tiny sack. If you use like a 30 liter, you have a belt that'll actually help you run better with that weight. Smaller, like 15-liter packs, just are not built for the weight of a 200. So even if you could stuff everything in it, it's not balanced properly on your body. So, unless you're super fast and you don't need to carry much stuff, I just go bigger and just cinch it up as best I can. Make it small. But it just allows you to reach your stuff. It helps your crew with getting your bladder filled and all that. It's not so impossible to get you all stuffed up and ready.
What capacity size like can you use for the bladder in the 30 liter?
You could probably use a huge one. The 2 liter one is, I think, the typical one they give you. If there is a bigger one, it definitely has a reservoir that's an area for a bladder that's much bigger. So, not sure why it's so big. Maybe there's bigger bladders. Yeah.
I think I have like a 3 liter bladder. That's the biggest that I have personally, but
Okay. So that would be why it's so big. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
you can always go bigger.
Always go bigger.
Always go bigger. I also wanted to ask if there's anybody that, in our running community that inspires you that you think would be a great uh, guest on our show.
Well, I have about 100 of them, but for right now, for the true spirit of ultra running, the one and only, who we call Coco Bunny, Christina Vincent. You should definitely interview her in terms of her experiencing crewing, pacing, racing. She's a fast one. She's a quick one. She won't say that, but she's a quick one. She burns me every time, uh, and just one of those humans that is a true human of ultra running. Really here for it all. Here through the thick and the thin, and the good and the bad, and trying to be strong so we can all bear it together. And so she's just one of our people. So definitely.
Yeah, definitely. I'll have to look into her. Was she with you at Lake Sonoma this year? Is
She
that
what? Yeah. So the two pictures I have are from her. Yeah. So that was
Oh,
her.
that's so awesome. Did she come to pace you at the end or?
Yeah. She got there and it was mile 52. And at that point, I got to start finish and they said, yeah, you can go up the mountain and back, but that's it. And so that was unfortunate that we didn't have a full night together, but
Yeah, that is kind of a bummer. They just couldn't find a way to make anything work to finish off the distance.
yeah, see, I think there were ways. I mean, because I know the area, but the problem is, I mean, I would say there were some other issues besides that bridge being, because they could have rerouted it. It would have it probably would have added some miles, but the thing is, we're all out there, we're all trained. It's a very big disappointment, but especially because it was my only race on the books this year. So I'll definitely do like an FKT in the fall or something. But so it's a disappointment with all the training, and really the race is just to celebrate all that hard training.
Do you have a FKT route in mind for the fall yet?
It would be another alternate course of mine out here. It wouldn't be probably not official. If I do an official, it would be that one. Uh, 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 they called not Backbone Trail down in LA. I mean, it's been fire ravaged, that kind of area, but that's a good one. If you do it both ways solo, so 120 miles or whatever instead of a 100K. If you do that, I think the FKT is about 36 hours, so
Oh,
that's
wow.
doable. So I kind of got my eyes on that one. And I know the guy who did it. He's super nice, and I want to beat him.
Well, that's awesome. I love that. Well, I'm excited to see what you do next. Will you let our listeners know where they can follow you so they can see what you get done
Yes.
this year?
Yes, please follow me. I'm no longer on Facebook. It was just taking too much time, and I don't like the way it presents information as much as like Instagram. So I'm on Instagram at runs dot mountains. Mountains plural, so runs mountains. And then I did just start a Blue Sky account, but I'm sure that's real political over there. But it's the same over on Blue Sky. It's runs/mountains. And that is it for social media. So if you're interested in coaching or following, just reach out to me via Messenger, or IG direct message. And love to meet you all, and happy trails out there. We're going to have fun this year.
Awesome. I'm so glad that I got to connect with you and chat and just kind of catch up. And
Yeah.
thanks for coming on.
Oh, yes. I
And
think so much.
of course.
Yeah, I just want to say to everybody, just like the trails, times get tough, but let's all turn to each other and help each other. I know I need it right now, so I'm giving because I need it.
I think we all do. So, I'm here for you.
I'm here for you.
Thanks for being here.
You're welcome. Take care.
Thank you. And thank you all for tuning into the Miles on Repeat podcast. Please like, share, and follow wherever you get your podcasts, and give us a review. That helps me out too. Until next time, we'll see you then, and happy trails.